Dear listener, welcome to the 11th story in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, The Adventure of the Beryl Coronet. This is one of the most dramatic, morally complex, and glittering tales in the entire canon. It is a story of immense wealth, family honor, a priceless jewel worth a king's ransom, and a desperate crime that threatens to destroy a respected banker and his entire household. Narrated by Dr. John H. Watson, the adventure begins with the sudden arrival of a powerful and distraught man at Baker Street on a bitterly cold February morning. It quickly plunges us into a world of sparkling barrels, snow-covered gardens, hidden family secrets, and a single night of betrayal that changes everything. From the magnificent Beryl Coronet to the frozen garden path, from the silent struggle at the window to the heartbreaking confession, every sparkling stone, every footprint in the snow, every torn piece of evidence, every anguished cry, and every brilliant deduction will unfold here in rich, vivid, and extended detail. Nothing of importance is left untold. Settle in as the snow falls silently outside, and the game takes a glittering but dangerous turn. The game is afoot, and this time, the prize is a coronet worth a king's ransom. Opening scene. The distraught banker arrives at Baker Street. It was a bitterly cold morning in February. A thick white frost covered the pavements and rooftops of London, and the air was so sharp it stung the lungs with every breath. I, Dr. John H. Watson, was sitting comfortably by the fire in the sitting room at 221B, Baker Street, enjoying a quiet cup of tea after my morning rounds, when the front doorbell rang with unusual violence. Mrs. Hudson announced a gentleman in a state of extreme agitation. The man who burst into the room was none other than Mr. Alexander Holder, the senior partner of the renowned and highly respected banking firm Holder and Stevenson of Threadneedle Street. He was a tall, imposing figure of about 50 years, with a strong, clean-shaven face, iron gray hair, and eyes that burned with despair and desperation. His usually immaculate clothes were disheveled, his tie was crooked, and he clutched a crumpled newspaper in his trembling hand as though it were a death warrant. "Mr. Holmes," he cried, his voice cracking with emotion, "I have come to you in the greatest despair of my life. My honor, my reputation, the honor of my family, and the very existence of my bank are at stake. If you cannot help me, all will be lost." Holmes rose calmly from his chair, his keen gray eyes studying the banker with intense interest. He invited Mr. Holder to sit by the fire, offered him a glass of brandy to steady his nerves, and asked him to tell the entire story from the very beginning, without omitting any detail, no matter how small or painful. Mr. Holder's tragic and shocking story. Mr. Alexander Holder took a deep breath and began his tale with a voice heavy with anguish. 3 days earlier, a very high and illustrious client, whose name he was not at liberty to reveal, had come to his bank and requested an immediate advance of £50,000. As security for this enormous sum, the client had left one of the most valuable public possessions in England, the Beryl Coronet. This magnificent crown was set with 39 enormous barrels of the purest water and finest luster. Its value was incalculable, far greater than the £50,000 advanced. Holder had accepted the coronet with great trepidation and taken it home that evening for safekeeping, placing it carefully in a strongbox in his dressing room on the first floor. He lived with his only son Arthur, a wild and extravagant young man of 28 who had fallen into bad company and accumulated heavy gambling debts, and his niece Mary, a gentle, beautiful, and devoted girl of 24 who acted as his housekeeper since the death of his wife. That night, before retiring, Holder had shown the coronet to both Arthur and Mary so they could admire its beauty. He then locked it away and went to bed. The next morning, when he opened the strongbox, he discovered to his horror that the coronet had been tampered with. 3 of the magnificent barrels were missing, torn out of their gold setting with great force. In a frenzy of rage and despair, Holder rushed downstairs and confronted his son Arthur, who had returned home very late the previous night. Arthur denied any knowledge of the theft, but refused to explain where he had been or why he had come home so late. In his fury, Holder accused his son of the crime and immediately sent for the police. Arthur was arrested and taken away, still protesting his innocence. Mr. Holder was now in utter agony. He feared that if the 3 missing barrels were not recovered quickly, the illustrious client would demand the return of the coronet. The scandal would ruin his bank's reputation, destroy his family's honor, and bring ruin upon everyone he loved. With tears in his eyes, he begged Holmes to find the missing gems and clear the matter before it became public knowledge. Holmes accepts the case and visits the house. Holmes listened with intense concentration, his fingertips pressed together. He asked detailed questions about the exact layout of the house, the position of the strongbox, the servants, the behavior of Arthur and Mary on the night of the theft, and whether anyone else had access to the dressing room. He noted that Arthur had a reputation for gambling and keeping bad company, while Mary was quiet, gentle, and devoted to the household. Holmes agreed to take the case immediately. He and Watson drove with Mr. Holder to his fine house in Streatham, a large and comfortable residence standing in its own grounds. Holder showed them the empty coronet and the strongbox. Holmes examined the coronet carefully under strong light. He noticed that the gold setting had been violently forced open. He then went outside and examined the garden path beneath the dressing room window, where fresh snow had fallen during the night. There were clear footprints leading to and from the window. Holmes's sharp eyes caught something crucial. The footprints showed that someone had climbed in through the window, and another set of prints indicated that someone had run across the garden in great haste. The investigation deepens. Holmes's observations. Holmes questioned the servants thoroughly. He learned that one of the maids, Lucy Parr, had a sweetheart who had been seen near the house late at night. He also noted that Arthur had been seen arguing with someone outside the house. After a careful examination of the garden and the house, Holmes asked Mr. Holder to allow him and Watson to spend the night there. That night, Holmes waited in the darkness near the dressing room. In the small hours, he saw a figure stealthily approach the window. It was Arthur. But instead of stealing, Arthur appeared to be trying to hide something. Holmes confronted him. Arthur confessed with great emotion that he had seen his cousin Mary hand the coronet to a man standing outside the window. In shock and horror, he had chased the man, struggled with him in the snow, and managed to snatch back part of the coronet, accidentally breaking off 3 barrels in the process. He had hidden the damaged coronet and refused to speak because he did not want to betray his beloved cousin Mary. The full truth revealed. Holmes then revealed the complete solution. Mary had been secretly in love with a notorious gambler and spendthrift named Sir George Bunwell. To pay his enormous debts, Bunwell had persuaded Mary to steal the coronet. On that fateful night, she had taken it from the strongbox and passed it out of the window to Bunwell. Arthur had witnessed the act, chased Bunwell, and struggled with him, breaking the coronet and recovering most of it. 3 stones were lost in the snow during the fight. Holmes had tracked down Sir George Bunwell and, after a tense confrontation, recovered the 3 missing barrels. The gems were carefully restored to the coronet. The illustrious client never knew how close he had come to losing his priceless treasure. Arthur was released from custody, though his reputation remained damaged for some time. Mary fled with Bunwell, and Mr. Holder learned a painful lesson about trust, family loyalty, and the dangers of hidden secrets. Closing narration and Watson's reflection, Holmes later explained every step of his reasoning to Watson with his characteristic clarity. The case had turned on small but vital clues. The footprints in the snow, the force required to bend the gold setting of the coronet, Arthur's stubborn silence to protect his cousin, and the known character of Sir George Bunwell. Watson reflected that this adventure showed Holmes's remarkable ability to see through family loyalty and social respectability to the painful truth beneath. It also highlighted the destructive power of greed, secret love, and misplaced trust. The Beryl Coronet, worth a king's ransom, had nearly destroyed an honorable man and his family. If your heart pounded during the midnight struggle at the window, your heart ached for Arthur's silent sacrifice, and you marveled at Holmes's swift unraveling of the coronet's secret, then Sir Arthur Conan Doyle has succeeded in creating one of his most gripping and emotionally charged short adventures. The snow may melt from the garden path, dear listener, but the game is always afoot.